Hi, I'm Mrs. Dahman. Today we're going to look at a skill that we've done before, comparing or contrasting characters, but we're going to look at it with a little bit different eye. We're going to review some of the things we already know, and then we're going to hone in on finding information in the text, specifically that backs up our opinions and beliefs. Now, sometimes information is in the text directly, and we can quote it directly to back up our thoughts and our responses. But other times we have to make inferences. We take something that the author has told us about a particular character, we combine it with our own schema and what we already know, and then we make an inference based on a character. And sometimes that's not as easy as we'd like, but it's important to understand how similarities and differences can be discerned through a text. And today we're going to start by just a review. It's going to be a quick lesson, so it's going to be an easy day, but we're going to look at the story of Cinderella. So if you haven't already watched the video that I've attached on Cinderella, it's just the reading of a story and it's about 5 minutes. It's super quick. Even though many of you already know Cinderella's story, it's a good idea to listen and just refresh what you know. All right, comparing characters. Characters are the people, animals, or creatures in a story or play. Good readers pay attention to details in a story and notice the traits of characters. How do we compare characters? We can make inferences about characters through their words, thoughts, or actions. What does a character say? What are his or her thoughts? What actions does the character take? What kind of person would say, think, and do that? Identify the traits that match the character. How are these traits similar and different from other characters in the story? How do the characters interact with each other? This is an excerpt from the book, from the story Cinderella, not necessarily the one that we just read, but a much bigger version of the story. And we're going to look at these specifically, and then we're going to look at some things that we saw in the video to kind of back it up or justify the inferences that we made using text-based evidence. Right, the excerpt from Cinderella reads, Cinderella sighed and sighed. I wish I might go to the ball too and see that handsome prince and all the lovely ladies, she said. Go scour your pots and pans, cried the stepmother. That is all you are fit for, you cinder wench. So Cinderella went back to her work, but as she scrubbed and rubbed the pots and pans, the tears ran down her cheeks so fast she could hardly see. So we know a little bit about Cinderella based on what we just read, and we also know a little bit about the stepmother based on that. And so we're going to go over these questions together and fill them in together. And then you're going to have an exit ticket at the end of the question, or at the end of this. And that's it for today. We're going to apply what we've learned here, and we're going to think about it and do some other character pieces throughout the week. But this is just kind of a reminder or a refresher on what we already know. When we were listening to the story you're welcome to listen to it again if you choose to, but at about 40 seconds in, Cinderella did chores while her sisters rested. The story told us that explicitly. It came out and said that Cinderella did all the work while her sisters sat and rested. Well, we can make an inference about Cinderella's character based on that scene alone. What do we know about people who work hard? What do we know about people who don't pitch in and help when hard work needs to be done? At 1 minute and 5 seconds, or right around that in the story, Cinderella helped her stepsisters to look their best for the ball. Now, in the previous scene, Cinderella worked hard while her sisters did nothing, but now Cinderella has gone out of her way to help her stepsisters look their best for this big, fancy, formal ball. Immediately following that scene at about 1:25, the stepsisters called her a dirty cinder wench. And cinder wench is the same expression used in the little excerpt that we have in our story. And a cinder wench is somebody who's dirty because they've cleaned the cinders out of the fireplace, basically. And somebody who's more of a servant, takes on a servant role. So the stepsisters called her a dirty cinder wench, and they refused to loan her a dress for the ball. Cinderella wanted to go to the ball, clearly, but her stepsisters wouldn't loan her a dress. Now remember, not even a minute before this in the story, Cinderella was doing the chores while her sisters laid about, and she was helping her stepsisters to look their best for the ball. Just a bit later in the story, at about 2 minutes and 6 seconds, Cinderella was told by her fairy godmother to do something, and Cinderella did it immediately. She did exactly as she was told. She didn't raise a fuss. She just fetched what she was told to fetch. That also says something about her character. And later on in the story, at about 4 minutes and 5 seconds, the stepsisters were talking about returning from the ball and seeing that unknown lovely lady, and their quote was, or their comment was, how nice the unknown woman was. So they had no idea that it was Cinderella in the fancy dress at the ball. But Cinderella knew that those stepsisters who had just been mean to her and refused to loan her a dress and called her a cinder wench had been kind to them. So those are all pieces where we can make an inference. It doesn't say Cinderella is a good person. It doesn't say in the story Cinderella is a kind person or a caring person or a hardworking person. But we can make those inferences based on what we know and the combination of words and scenes that we found in a story. So we're going to use those two pieces to answer these questions that are in the think boxes at the bottom of this page. What does Cinderella say, think, and do? Well, we know that Cinderella wants to go to the ball. We got that explicitly from the story. We know that Cinderella is helpful. We got that explicitly from the story. We know she helps her sisters. And we know that she does as she's told with her fairy godmother immediately. So what does that tell you about Cinderella? It says she has a kind heart, I believe. Your answers may differ from mine slightly, and that's okay, because we each bring a different schema to the table. We all have different backgrounds and experiences. But essentially, we should come to a similar conclusion that Cinderella is kind, hardworking, and compassionate to other people. All right, the next question says, what does the stepmother say, think, and do? Well, the stepmother says directly from the text, go scour your pots and pans. That is all you are fit for, you cinder wench. What does that tell us about the stepmother? Well, she doesn't mind throwing about unkind phrases, that her thoughts aren't on the value that Cinderella offers. They're on belittling Cinderella and demeaning her purpose and her role in the family. It tells us that maybe the stepmother needs a bit of a change of heart. Again, your answer may vary from mine because we have different background experiences, but it should tell you that maybe she's not the kind person that we would all wish our stepmother to be. And how do Cinderella and her stepmother interact? Well, we have to make some inferences there because neither of the two stories talked about how they interacted. But we can make some pretty good inferences and assumptions. The stepmother is clearly in charge, and Cinderella is clearly subservient. Cinderella does as she's told. Now, it could be for a variety of reasons, and we don't have those at this stage of the game, but we know that Cinderella and her stepmother have a relationship that isn't based on kindness, caring, or compassion. All right, that fills in this compare characters worksheet for the day. You can, again, use the words that I shared, or you can use your own words, but I'd like you to take a few minutes and answer the exit ticket below and apply this knowledge. Like I said, tomorrow and, well, throughout the rest of the week, we're going to look at different passages and determine character traits based on what we see and what we infer in the text. Thank you for listening, and take care.